We're off to see the movie about the Wizard of Oz. What up, y'all? It's the Black Critic Guy. As you can see, still a change of venue. I'm still down visiting my father, and it's still spring break. And today I'm here to review the movie Oz, the Great and Powerful. And I gotta say, I had a real good time watching this movie. It was fun throughout. So by now, many of you already know the story of Oz, the Great and Powerful. It's basically set up to be the prequel to The Wizard of Oz, and it basically tells the story of how the Wizard of Oz got to Oz, and before he was the Wizard of Oz, he was this failed magician back in Kansas who played on girls and, was doing all these cheap parlor tricks. While running away from a scuffle, he hops on a hot air balloon and gets sucked into a tornado, which sends him straight to Oz. And once he arrives in Oz, he is told a prophecy about a man who will come who bears the same name as the land of Oz, who will get them out of the turmoil that they are going through right now, and that is where our story begins. Now, when I first heard they were making this movie, a lot of people said the same thing. They're like, oh my god, they're trying to do the whole Alice in Wonderland thing again, just like Jack the Giant Slayer last week. Now we have Oz the Great and Powerful. But I gotta say, if I were to compare the two, I enjoy Oz the Great and Powerful more than I enjoyed Jack the Giant Slayer. Now let's talk about some of the good aspects of this film. First off, I loved how they paid homage and made a lot of reference to The Wizard of Oz. One thing that I really admired that the makers of this film did is they started the movie off in a 4:3 aspect ratio, just like how the old movie was made. And when you got transferred to Oz, you felt the transformation. You felt the transition into Oz, because it starts off being gray and dull and all compact and closed, and then it opens and widens up into this large panoramic, just huge scale of a place, and it really feels like you went to Oz. The special effects were spot on in this film. Even in the 4:3 aspect ratio of Kansas, they really made you feel like you were stuck in this boring, dull place. They really paid attention to detail, and they made you feel like you didn't want to be in Kansas anymore. And then when you get transferred to Oz, it just opens up and it becomes a more wider, much vibrant, much livelier, much brighter place, and you feel excited to go on this adventure. And I really thought they did a spot-on job with the special effects. And not only that, I feel like if you were to see this movie, give it a chance in 3D. I honestly regret not seeing this in 3D because there were some shots that would have had a much bigger impact on me had I saw it in 3D. So if you have a chance to see this movie in 3D, I say give it a chance. The characters, for the most part, were really enjoyable to watch. You got characters that are really funny, you love watching them. There are characters that are just scary and creepy. And then you got characters that really tug at your heartstring and make you want to cry. And just like in The Wizard of Oz, when Oz goes to Oz, man, that's a lot of Oz. He meets people in Oz that resemble people that he knew back in Kansas. Just like in the first movie when Dorothy came to Oz, she meets people as well that resemble people that were farm hands and worked on the farm or were part of the farm. And I loved how they referenced that, like in the first movie. And lastly, the acting for the most part was handled pretty well. James Franco does a really good job of portraying Oz. Although throughout the movie, I don't know if you guys felt this too, but I really felt like James Franco was really high when he was making this movie. Like he just hired a bunch of cameramen to follow him. He's like, hey guys, we're going to Oz. Let's go. Mila Kunis, my god, does she look gorgeous in this movie. And she's a good actress too. But there were some times where I felt like Mila Kunis and other characters were overly dramatic, but I think that's paying homage to the original film, because in the original film they were overly dramatic on a lot of things too, because when you're in Oz, you can't act like, oh, it's a normal day, normal humans. No, you gotta act bombastic, you gotta act energetic, you gotta give that grandiose feeling, so you gotta overact, and I think that's why they did it. They did it on purpose. And it's so good to see Zach Braff again. Where have you been, man? And now we get to some aspects that I didn't like about the film, and the first one that I had a problem with was the overabundance of CG. I know I just said I like the visual effects, but there came a point where I felt like, man, this is too much. I mean, it just got to the point where it gave me a headache and everything just felt fake. And I wanted to feel like I was transferred into this world, but the CG just was too much and it took me out of the film a little bit. There were some scenes in this movie that felt really rushed, like the relationship between the wizard and Mila Kunis' character. They could have expanded on that or developed that a little better. But there were also scenes in the movie where I felt like it was too long and they needed to move on to the next scene. Like there's a scene with the wizard, a monkey, and this girl made of porcelain china, and they're on this yellow brick road, and that scene was way way too long. It could have been condensed a little bit. And that's the problem with this movie. There are scenes that are so rushed, and there are scenes that are just too long and they needed to trim it. And going off of what I said earlier about scenes being too long, I felt like this movie was way too long. I mean, when you go to a place like Oz, it has to be an event. It has to be something special, something that you cherish. But when you stay there for almost 2 hours, it just loses that appeal, it loses that spectacular feeling. And lastly, there are also a few scenes and a few lines that come off as corny and cliche, and you're like, oh man, really? They had to say that, didn't they? But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed Oz the Great and Powerful. It's a fun story with interesting characters and fantastic special effects that really pulled me into the land of Oz and made it feel like a grand entrance. And so I'm going to give this film a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's not great, but it's a rather enjoyable film, and I think it's really going to be a film that kids will enjoy. And if you have a chance to see it in 3D, I say give it a chance. But anyway, what did you guys think of this film? Did you really enjoy it? Did you just feel like it was dull and interesting and there was too much CGI? And let me know, what is your favorite James Franco movie? Comment below. Let me know. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button and welcome to the Black Critic Guy. Like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Watley II from the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.